What's up, Buzz Squad? It's your boy Dalton, back at it again with the long-haired ginger.
Yeah, man, it's getting kind of flowing.
Yeah. Let's not do that and not bring back the 80s with that mullet you got going on there.
It's business in the front, party in the back.
Yeah, it's more like no life all over the place. But let's not talk about your
wrong.
life. But what are we talking about today?
We're talking about my biggest issue with trading card games. And that's weird to say.
That's a pretty broad situation we got going on here. What's the problem? What's the main issue you have?
The main issue here is the TCG community itself. Because it doesn't exist.
What do you mean it doesn't exist? It has to exist, right?
So my thesis here is that it doesn't. What I'm arguing here is everyone loves their card game.
Right.
But no one loves card games.
Okay.
Let's look at an analogy.
Okay.
One of the closest thing to trading card games, board games. I can go right now and find 100 different groups on Facebook or Reddit or YouTube channels or that just talk about people's love for board games. Whether you're a fan of playing Scythe or House on the Hill or Settlers of Catan, no matter what it is, there's a place for you to belong. That doesn't exist for card games.
Okay.
Consider this. There are massive subreddits for Magic the Gathering.
Right.
And Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Pokemon trading card game.
Yep.
And kind of large ones for Dragon Ball Super card game.
I get where you're going. I get what you're going.
All tens of to hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
Yet r/TCG has like 1,000. There's this kind of sad dynamic here where most people care about the card game they play, but not card games in general. And those who do care about the ideas of card games and want to talk about them in general don't have great places to do so. And we've got a little personal bias here, but you can definitely attest to this. Those who have YouTube channels or other forms of creative content that try to incorporate discussing more than one card game really struggle.
Well, I guess I'll be the good guy or whatever. The angle I got to take here. I think it's a little bit different for card games versus board games, where typically if you have like a board game night, you plan on playing multiple different board games. When you're having like a card night, you're typically only going to be playing like one game for a majority of it. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, you might play something else here and there, kind of like how we do it. Like, typically we might play Super or we'll just play Commander all night. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit of Boss Monster or...
I think part of it is there's a lot more required of someone to be big into a card game than it is, you can be a fan of 50 different board games and play all of them consistently. Whereas it's hard to juggle trading card games.
Well, I think also another difference with it is board games, like, you only have to put the money in once and then you've been invested for life. Where card games, you kind of have to keep going in case like something crazy happens, and like for say Magic, say something busted happens, like a new counter spell, like, well, I'm gonna need that, or a new like Apex, what is it, Apex Devastator, the Cascade ×4 card.
Cascade.
Yeah, like people wanted that, or even the Vorinclex from Keldheim. Like, you kind of want to make sure you have all the newest pieces, but that means you're always updating and so forth.
I'm trying to not make this a big negative episode, despite the title.
Don't worry, you've already pissed people off. So.
No matter what I say, man. I love card games. I really do. And I have played a lot in my time. But I've got a lot of other hobbies too. And none of them are like card games. Card games, it's hard to be a fan of them because of the fact that there's not many great places to be a fan. I can't go to Magic the Gathering community and share, yes, I love Magic, but here's some other interesting card games that I'm into. I feel part of it is just circumstance because, it's a lot harder to devote to multiple card games, but there's also sometimes a generally unwelcoming atmosphere to people who play other games. You've played quite a few over the years, right?
I have. I've played a few games. It is interesting. It is tough for people to accept new players and sometimes also leaving their game if they have to for one reason or the other. Kind of like us with Buddy Fight. Like, we loved playing Buddy Fight. It was a great game. And then once it kind of ended, it was like, you kind of get this vibe from like the Yu-Gi-Oh community, Magic community, like, oh, now we're just going to have a flood of people coming into our game. And I feel like that's part of the problem why there isn't just a TCG loving community.
You know what's really funny?
What?
You and I have bounced between various different card game communities, seen, local players for every card game under the sun, attended competitions for many card games. It's amazing to see the card games use other card games as punching bags. Magic the Gathering fans often make fun of Yu-Gi-Oh players. Yu-Gi-Oh players make fun of Cardfight Vanguard players. Cardfight Vanguard players make fun of Yu-Gi-Oh players. And, there's some variance to that.
I was going to say, all I'm hearing is a lot of people making fun of Yu-Gi-Oh players. And now we're definitely going to die.
we used to make fun of Y Schwartz. I know it was mostly me, but hey. I'm very much guilty of this myself. But
but that's kind of like part of it. It's like,
it's not hatred.
It's not hatred. It's just good fun. Sometimes people do it out of hatred. Don't
there
get it
is
wrong,
some,
but like that's kind of what happens. And I feel like you might feel like there isn't like a TCG community. I feel like there is, but it's just not shown because people would rather stick with their niche communities within it. I feel like you have the TCG community, but then it has all of its branches and so forth that people like to stick with.
It's like the high schools in like
your cliques and all that.
Like the Disney high schools that totally are not real life.
Right.
High School Musical. It's the High School Musical lunchroom scene where they're all like, we're the jocks and we're the emo kids and we're the dorks. It's that, but with card games.
Yes.
And I get it, but I feel like a lot of people miss out on a lot of great opportunities and ideas because of that. I've been particularly active in a lot of card game subreddits, and someone asked a question in one of the few general TCG-related subreddits about interesting mana systems. And I explained the way that Future Card Buddy Fight did its system, its gauge system, which is very interesting, and it's a very clever system. And I explained it, and they're like, wow, that does sound great. I always thought Future Card Buddy Fight was some stupid, silly thing and never looked into it. That sounds like a really interesting system. I get that a lot for every card game. It's a common denominator, no matter what game community I'm a part of at a time. There's someone who's going to bash another card game. Every single one is guilty of it to a degree.
But I also feel like it always comes down to money in this situation, I feel like, because it's like especially with Super right now, because there's a lot of cards that some people want. That's also like, why am I dropping like a loan on a house for this now? Like, and so forth. So hence why people try to stick to where they want to be in and kind of focus on that, because like even with Magic, like I'm trying to build up my Magic collection slowly but surely, but it's like,
yeah, I know. That's
some of those cards, man. Like, I don't know if I'll ever buy Gaia's Cradle. That's an investment and a half. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get a Wheel of
friends
Fortune.
with cars that are cheaper than a Gaia's Cradle.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a piece of cardboard at the end of the day. Yes, there's going to be collector's value. There's going to be that. And there's also that part of it, too, because you also have collectors. You know, you have collectors for a game and so on.
I think
and so
maybe
forth.
that's part of why I'm one of the people who notice this is I do tend to be more of a collector, especially
Right.
over the past couple of years. The ratio of me being a player of card games to a collector has leaned much heavier into the collector side.
See, I'll even do you one further, without spoiling things about what you're doing. You're also very intrigued in card game design,
Yes.
and I feel like you've been poking around at the idea of maybe creating your own or something like that. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Might actually be getting pretty close.
But so you're also looking at it from a different lens than most people.
Yes.
Where like I'm looking at it as a player. You're looking at it as maybe a collector / game designer.
Yeah.
So you have a different outlook. So you want to know interesting like mana sources or interesting mechanics and trying to pull it in and create something new where I'm like, nope, I want to stay here.
You want to stay in your lane.
Don't move me. I don't want to veer off track. Just keep me here. And I think that's kind of why I feel like this really works because I have the more player aspect of it, and then you have more of the game design card collector aspect. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's why I don't know. I feel like I'm about to go onto a tangent about talking about the episode instead of continuing the episode.
Getting a little too meta there.
Yes, going super meta on it.
But no, we do have a unique outlook on that because we are a YouTube channel that covers multiple card games. And we know that doesn't do as well as if we just picked a card game.
This is true. This is true. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I wish more people do what we do, in a sense, covering multiple games and so forth. But it's also super hard because, like, when you really get down to it, it's like, well, I have to invest money into these games in order to potentially show off the game or even talk about it better.
Now,
instead of trying to, like, jump into something and be like, well, it looks okay, but at the same time, then you just create people who don't like you.
Right. And we've even done that.
Oh, yeah, Ice Wars.
I was going to say
that's not true.
Caster Chronicles, where we gave it a casual look, and that was it. But, you know, TCG Buzz has always been about us and what we're interested in playing now.
And I feel like that's how it's always going to be, because there's no way to actually be a fully TCG channel, if that makes sense. Like, you have to focus down on what you want to talk about. Because if you try talking about something you have no interest in or don't care enough about, it's always going to be the worst content. If it's something that you actually enjoy, it's going to be better.
Right. You know, I do think things could be better for all card games, though, if people were able to look with a broader lens and were able to advocate to people outside of the card game community, not just my card game is amazing, but card games are amazing. I would much rather have a friend of mine become passionate about a game that I don't personally play than not experience the joys of card games at all. And I don't think that happens.
I think it does more than you think, but I also think you're looking at it far more broader than that.
Yeah.
Because it goes back down to the fact that you're more of a card collector / game designer. So, like, you have a different look at it versus me, where I probably won't see that much, you know? Sure, I play Super, I play Magic, I play Vanguard, kind of.
Okay. You're very on and again, off again with Vanguard.
Kind of.
It comes in waves.
It comes in waves. It's back and forth. But we won't get into that. But it's like, so I only really care about that. So when somebody tries to, like, say, join Super, it's like, oh, this is cool. Somebody new to play, yada, yada, yada. And, like, I build them up or, like, try to get to know them, things of like that nature. Versus, like, say, Yu-Gi-Oh! Sure, I still watch Yu-Gi-Oh stuff because I do like watching it, and like I do like some of the archetypes. I do like the combos and all that stuff. Sure, I will never play competitively because no, thank you. Because that's also expensive at the same time.
One
but
thing.
Also,
No, continue. Continue your thought. I'm sorry, I jumped in a little too soon.
But on the same nature, I just enjoy watching content creators talk about Yu-Gi-Oh. Same thing with Magic. Sure, I'm not like a competitive like standard player or modern or this or that, but Commander, love playing it, and I also just like talking about things and like watching standard play. Even like Magic the Gathering Arena, and like Hearthstone. Like, even though I used to be a little bit more into Hearthstone, but I kind of fell off. But I still like watching the stuff.
If you don't play Magic the Gathering, you should still try out some Magic content. Particularly, my recommendation here, not a planned shout out, but Ristic Studies. It's a channel that does very, very high quality documentary style videos about Magic the Gathering cards and concepts. And it's one of the best YouTube channels I've ever seen.
Question.
Yeah.
Do they have one on Ristic Studies?
You know what? I don't think he does.
What?
I know. But that channel is amazing. And I feel because someone sees, oh, it's Magic the Gathering content, they might not watch it and enjoy it. When you can gain a lot out of that as a card game fan in general.
Right.
You know, one of the things that really bugged me, and this is a unique experience we've had when we were Bushiroad players, remember that time, is Bushiroad would hold mixed card game events.
Right.
So they would have their regional level tournaments.
You have Vanguard, Y Schwartz, Buddy Fight, Luck and Logic before it died, Dragonborn before it died.
All together.
There's a lot of games they had die. Yeah.
And I've gone to those events. Some years I was both very interested in playing Vanguard and both very interested in Buddy Fight. Some years it was just Buddy Fight. Some years I was even interested in Dragonborn. But it was amazing how quickly I could spark up a conversation and really gain benefit from someone playing the same card game as me, right? But I'd have conversations with someone who was there for something I was not there for. And I'd say, no, sorry, man, I don't have any white cards.
That's also kind of interesting, right?
And it immediately shuts down, and they're like, oh, all right, leave. And I'm like...
It's kind of interesting, because Bushiroad, even though we have our own personal views on that, in a sense, they had their own TCG community with all of their games.
Right.
Because of the fact that they held a mix regionals and so on and so forth. So it kind of, in a sense, they developed one, but of course it was only for Bushiroad games. So it's still specific, but it's a little bit more broader than just Vanguard, Buddy Fight, Y Swords.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of interesting. It's like a really neat thing that they probably didn't try to do, to be fair. But it happened. But at the same time, because like, from what I've heard and so forth, or like seen, like, because some of our friends bought Y Schwartz stuff and yada, 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 and like tried trading cards with some people. It's like, Y Schwartz in itself also kind of, I don't know if it's like this anymore. Mind you, this is years back. So bear with me. Like, if you don't play the same anime, they don't care. You know, kind of what you were talking about with just talking to somebody random at one of the Bushiroad events.
What bothers me even more than the, oh, okay, then I'm out of here. Right. Are the people, and I'm going to not throw any particular community under the bus, because I've seen it in every single card game I've ever played. The people who are self-righteous about their choice to play the card game they play. Even the games I really love and the games whose communities I really love. They're like, oh, you play blank game? We only play blank over here. Get out of here.
Oh, that's where you're going with
yeah.
that. It's not where I thought you were going with that.
Maybe I didn't explain myself too well.
No, I just assumed you were going in a whole different area.
Where did you think I was going?
just someone who's a little bit more uptight, who's like, guy has to brag, like, yeah, my deck's the most expensive deck out there.
Oh, yeah. There are those type of people, too.
And all that stuff. But that's getting down to, like, tournament stuff, because, you know, we can talk about that again if you want. But no, when it comes down to communities, I feel like it really depends, because, like, with Digimon and so forth, even though it's a little bit weird and so forth.
Digimon was actually a really interesting case, because, yes, it is its own...
This is where I want to go with it first,
Yeah.
real quick. So, like, with the Dragon Ball Super community, when Digimon was announced, people were starting to get scared that, oh, we're going to lose our player base because people are going to flock over to Digimon. And then that's eventually going to kill us off, and people were getting concerned. But that's kind of what I've seen with so many, like, new card games that come out. They come and go, whatever, or they stick around. Old communities like Magic and so on and so forth, they're always concerned when a new game comes up and when one dies. Because it's like, oh, we're going to lose players. Oh, now we're going to gain a bunch of players. And nobody wants that, but it's still healthy for their games and just for the TCG community in general. Not the dying of the card games. That's horrible. It's always horrible. But
Digimon was such a unique case because...
Also
and
with
I
its time
tested
frame.
it. I surveyed it. People came from a ton of different backgrounds. And I saw that created a lot of friction.
Yep.
Because players came from such different backgrounds. They had very different expectations.
Right.
And it caused a lot of friction in the Digimon community. And to a degree still is. And I feel if people were... more experience with other card games, that would be less so.
I wouldn't say experience.
No, experience.
I would
Probably
say
not the word.
more open to other card games. Not necessarily being experienced, because I don't think that equates to what you want exactly, what you're trying to go for there. But again, like Digimon, hopefully it ends up being good. I honestly don't have any interest in it, but that's just me. I know you really
know what
care.
you just said there? You said, I hope it'll be good. I hope
Exactly.
it'll do well.
I always want to see a card game succeed.
Exactly.
I always want one to
great
succeed.
attitude to have.
And like, I don't like it when one dies. It sucks, but like sometimes it's like we get to make a video on it when it dies and be like,
That's true.
hey, this is why it failed.
Yeah, we've sadly had to do that quite a few times.
Remind me.
Let's see, we did.
Don't you say it.
Okay. No,
Don't you say it.
It's gonna make me sad too. But I feel if each card game's individual community spent more time building the entire group up instead of pushing parts of it down, we'd all do better, and we'd have a better environment for attracting new players, which every card game needs new players. So my only requests out of this video: one, discuss this further with me. Like, I really want to have a full discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
With
Come
tons of
join the
people.
Discord,
Yeah, Discord or in the comments.
Or in the comments, that's for sure.
Two, just be nicer to people who play other card games than you. And it might not be you who's the problem, but consider your actions when you're interacting with either, members of other card games or just members of the public. Because I've seen some card game players, like, at events be total dicks to, people who aren't there.
Can we say that word?
I just did.
Well, all right, fair enough.
To, for lack of a better word, normies who were there,
Okay.
And three, try some new things out. Branch out a little. You might not like something you try, but you maybe will. One of the people in our group, he's actually the person in our sound room right now, is Bryce, who we had met through playing Dragon Ball Super, and he kind of had that attitude.
It wasn't Super. I thought it was Magic.
I think it was Super.
No,
it was
you're
kind
right.
of both.
I think it was a little bit. No, it was Frost. It was locals, not a game.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different, but also support your locals.
Yeah, support your locals, and don't be a dick to anyone at your locals. And
Exactly. Still don't be a.
Yeah.
Just
But Bryce kind of had a negative attitude towards
Buddy fight.
A buddy fight.
Yeah.
And then we got him to try it, And
then he got
became
hooked.
die hard into it.
Got hooked on
after
it.
he, gave it a shot. So, and he ended up taking top 8 at a regional event and
Right.
having what I'm sure he would say is one of his favorite memories of ever playing any card game, of a game that he initially, sneered at a little. So that's all I have. Would you like to finish this off?
Finish off, definitely if you want to get, singles for your card game or whatever, make sure you use our affiliate code,
Yeah,
link
it's
down
TCG
below.
Player, one of the few websites that does support a ton of different card games.
Right. Join our Discord if you want to keep talking about this with Jacob, because I am horrible. I know this. I'm trying to get better. I seriously am.
No one even knows who you are on our Discord.
Do you even know what my name is?
Not currently.
I did just change it recently too. That's a whole other issue. Now I lost my train of thought.
Instagram?
All this. Yeah, Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. What else? Do we have a Snapchat?
Don't think so.
All right. Maybe we'll work on that. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Patreon.
Patreon, if you want to support us or whatever, either use the TCG affiliate code or join Patreon, And, you have any final thoughts?
Nope. I've talked enough one episode.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. And above all else, stay classy, y'all.